Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, I'm going to be looking at the last candidate for CentOS 8 replacement. This time it's Blue Onyx, right after this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Blue Onyx. So it is a Red Hat Enterprise Linux compatible server, and they get their baseline from CentOS. They also have some repos from Red Hat as well, I believe. But what is it? Where do these guys come from? So back in I think it was back in the early 90s, maybe 92, 93, somewhere around in there was a company called Sausalito Cobalt. Sausalito, and they produced an appliance, and it was an appliance for web hosting. So this appliance was originally, I think it was the Cobalt Cube, and it used a variant of the Red Hat operating system. It was modified, of course, to allow this code to run. But they could sell this to ISPs that were performing web hosting, and there was a couple of them here in Dallas that did that. And you could just stand up these servers. You could host a number of websites on them, and then you could just keep building out your racks and just bringing more and more people onto the web that wanted to create their own websites. And during that time, from about 92 up until about 2002, it was just booming. They were selling these things like crazy. I remember going in and seeing server rooms with just racks and racks of these things posted in there. So in 2002, ill-fatedly, bad choice that Sun did, they acquired Sausalito, and because they wanted to sell these servers, they wanted to get involved with it, but unfortunately they were a little late to the party. By this time, I think Sausalito had moved. They were originally MIPS-based machines, and they had started moving them over to the Intel chipset. So not that that's really important, but that did play into Sun's strategy, because they were planning on moving this over onto their platform, of course, and selling hardware with it. That's just smart business, right? Unfortunately, in October of 2002, the dot-com bubble burst and businesses were going under. The ISPs were going under. They were being acquired by larger companies. It was just, if you were in that time frame, you probably remember, it was a shipwreck. So Sun stopped the product. They stopped marketing the product. They shut it down. And in 2003, they came out with they released their source code, the Sausalito GUI. They released that source code to the open source community under a BSD license, which is really kind of strange, considering it was something that ran on Linux. I guess because Sun used the BSD license for most of their open source stuff, I guess they just felt comfortable with that, and that's what they did. They released it under the BSD license. So a Japanese fan group called Blue Quartz. Actually, they called it Blue Quartz. It was Solar Speed that actually picked it up. They maintained that source code, and I think they still do. I think they still do maintain the source code today. And so they've been keeping it alive since 2003. In 2007, Blue Onyx came along thinking, okay, well, we want to kind of resurrect this. We want to start getting it to work again, and on the modern versions of Linux, and then Red Hat based Linux, which would have been CentOS 5, I think, at the time. And so they worked on porting that system over to CentOS and getting it up and running, and they started producing a 32-bit and a 64-bit version. Now, originally, the Sausalito code was all 32-bit. The 2012 Blue Onyx said, I think we need to start modernizing this GUI and make it more up-to-date for the web hosting places that want to service, building up websites for other companies. But still do that. It's just this was kind of the foray into the cloud, right? I mean, this is where cloud is just using other people's computers, and that's exactly where this all started, except in this case, it was an appliance-based system. But Blue Onyx didn't want to maintain the appliance. They wanted to be able to run on any particular platform that CentOS supported. So in 2019, 2020, they started bringing it up so that it ran on CentOS 7 and then CentOS 8. And that's where they are right now. That's kind of where they're at with things. They're still active. They're still in making improvements to the software, and they're still working on it. So what exactly is Bluonix? So Bluonix provides an enterprise Linux control panel for virtual web hosting. That's what they do. That's what the whole system is about. They offer either Postfix or SendMail as the mail transport authority, and you have your choice which one you want to use. Although I don't know why you would use SendMail. SendMail is a very complicated setup. And if you don't do it right, you will be a proxy for people that want to send spam through your servers. So, yeah, plus they could also take control of your system. I mean, SendMail is just, and Postfix to some degree is a bit that way too, but it's a little bit easier to set up. Optional chrooted jail with SFTP or SSH access is also supported, so that if the idea behind that, of course, is if the companies that were hosting their websites on these servers wanted to get in and do things manually, like set up a database and all that stuff, they could do that. And so these are things these are offerings that allow them access. It does support a full IPv4, IPv6 stack. It is pre-configured with Apache Pro FTPD, so you have a FTP server that you can use in addition to SSH and SFTP. For those clients that don't have SSH or don't want to use SSH, they can still use a Pro version of FTPD to be able to transfer files and keep their sites updated. And there's also Dovecot, which I believe is the IMAP and POP3 versions, which have security or encryption enabled on the data at least. MySQL or MariaDB is also in there, and also Mailman for users to go and get their email from the website. There's also an optional Nginx SSL proxy, so if you need that, you can install that as well. I suppose you could also use Nginx because Nginx has the ability, and so does Apache, by the way, to be a load balancer. So I suppose you could do that as well. There are GDPR tools that are included in the Bluonix GUI. And you can host virtual sites, mailing lists, and users, of course, through their system. There is Docker integration, and there's just a lot more features. I'd go out to the website and look. There's pages and pages of them that go through all the features. So that's really what Bluonix is intended for. The current release is 5210R, and that is a fully 64-bit version that's based on CentOS 8.3 currently. And they do support TLS version 1.3. It does have limited EFI support, so if you are hosting your systems on older hardware that doesn't support EFI, you can turn off the EFI and then boot legacy as well. So there is an OVA file that's provided for VMware. There's some other like XCP also will allow you, I believe, to import OVA files. And there was a special interest version for Raspberry Pi to act as a host. I'm not sure what happened to it. It currently it shows that it is retired, but I'm not. But then there's a new version that's mentioned, and I don't know. I haven't seen any information on the site. Maybe they're working on it. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe there just wasn't enough interest to keep it going. So. Back to the CentOS 8 end of, actually it's not end of life, it is end of development, EOD. It's actually done. So Onyx stated in December of 2020 in their post in response to Red Hat / CentOS Governance Board's announcement that CentOS 8 is ending their support and development at the end of 2021. So they said in their post that, and it's on their website if you want to go read it, CentOS 8 and CentOS period has never been without issues and unpredictability. So they never married themselves to it. Bluonix is concerned, however, and I've seen this from a lot of people that are talking in the forums about this, that one betrayal could lead to another. The concern here is that Red Hat could lock down their RPMs that they have developed in the Red Hat repos, which would of course cripple any attempt to use their repos for building up another distribution. Those, you would have to have hybrids that used some other distros packages in order to be able to continue functioning, because a lot of the Red Hat ones go pretty deep into the Linux operating system. So yeah, if they did that, that probably would have quite an effect across the entire community. Not to mention backlash that could occur legally, because some of the Red Hat code does contain, as with all code, I mean, it's a tree. And so even though you say you own the RPM, your RPM also includes dependencies from other places which are open source and maintained outside of your purview. So I would think that would be unlikely that they would do that. I just can't imagine that IBM would want to put themselves in the crosshairs of a major legal battle, and I'm sure there would be one. I just can't imagine them being that stupid. But who knows? I mean, that is a concern that they're worried about. But nonetheless, there's a couple of options they're considering. So, and I'll talk more about Rocky at the end. But option one, moving the baseline to Rocky Linux when when it's available to do so. And two, Blue Onyx has said they only depend on a handful of the CentOS and /Red Hat RPM packages. So it's possible for them to switch to a completely another distro without having ill effects. I mean, they'd have to do some migration, but it isn't that bad. So push comes to shove, they could either go to Rocky or they could move completely off of a RHEL-based distro. So either way, their stated support in their forums has said that they will support 5210R until their planned date of May 31st, 2029. That doesn't mean they're going to stop development. It just means that, as with all of their releases on a particular platform, it's 10 years, and they're going to continue that. It doesn't mean there won't be a 5211 or a 5310 or whatever, but it does mean that particular release will be supported for 10 years, and they're saying, relax, don't worry about it. We will take care of it. So I guess the place to go now is let's go check it out. Let's go see how it actually looks. So let me switch over here, and I have already started this up. So I have not done anything with it yet. I just started it up, and it's sitting here waiting for me to do something with it. So let me, oops. I probably have 3 consoles up now, but that's okay. All right, make this a little bit larger so you can see what's going on. And it's just a standard. You can do an automatic install, although I didn't have very much good luck with that the first time I did it. You can install it on a single disk with no LVM, or you can do a small server install or interactively install. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do an interactive install for 2 reasons. One, so you can see kind of how it works and how it looks. I don't think I need to check the ISO again. Try to bring this up a little bit bigger again. So I should bring up an Anaconda screen. There we go. It's pretty typical. So welcome to CentOS 8.0. Okay. So we'll go ahead and go next. And I'm waiting for the keyboards to update. Language support looks good. This is wrong. For me, anyway. Might be okay for you if you happen to live on the East Coast. So local media is fine. Installation destination, that's where I want to go. I'll do that. I am going to enable this. There we go. And it should come back. Good. Security policy. I don't think there is anything in here currently. So we'll just go ahead and get things set up. While it's installing in the background, I will set up the users. Make them administrator. Okay. And we'll wait a minute, and I'll be back, and we'll let this go until it's done. I don't think it'll take too long, but we'll see. It is currently 1850. Be right back. So it took about, now 1855. So I said 1820. Is that right? So about 35 minutes. Is that right? I don't think it was quite that long. But anyway, we'll go ahead and reboot the thing. It didn't seem like it was that long, but maybe. Well, anyway. We'll go ahead and choose the first option. It's probably going to resize on me, but we'll see. Maybe not. Nope. Okay. So to set up, I need to log in as root with the password Blue Onyx. And they also show you that you can enable the cockpit if you want to use that as well. They show you how to do that as well. So let's go ahead and log in as root. Use their password. Oops. I think this actually has to go through once and then it changes it back. It's kind of weird. I did not enter that same password, and so it's going to use your password that you entered first, and then it's going to fail, and then it'll be default. I guess it changes it to Blue Onyx. So that is really strange, but that's the way it works. Now I can, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. No, I don't want that. So we'll go ahead and accept this. Now, what it's doing is it's setting up the Blue Onyx web hosting software. So this is all driven by the web. So it's bringing up Apache and it's starting up all that stuff. And installing all of the code for it. And then it says if you want to log into it, you can just go to 81, your host ID, and port 81/login to get in. And it will create a user for you to get in. So let me go ahead and exit that. And I'm not going to enable Cockpit because I already have it enabled on the other system. But let's just see, do I have HTOP? Nope, I'll have top though. So 468 meg used. Now realize this has started up applications already. So yeah, this is not, it has MySQL up and running, and it has basically a LAMP stack installed here. So yeah, under it. So it actually runs a LAMP stack with their code. So that means it has Linux, it has Apache, it has MySQL, and it has PHP. So all of those things are running. The disk consumption, oops, let's get it right. Looks like 2.9 gig, something like that. So not a lot, not taking an awful lot. And so I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to shut this one down, and we're going to flip over to one I already have set up. All I did on this server over here was just run their script to bring it up, and also installed Cockpit. Got that enabled, so I'm just waiting for that one to come down so I can start the other one up. Yep. And I already have a number of things that are enabled here. So I'm going to go in as my user. And I have installed the oops. I've already installed the EPLs, I think. HTOP. Nope. I thought I did. I thought I put it out there. I am on the right server, right? Did I bring up that one again? I did. I thought something wasn't quite right. I thought so. All right. Let's try again. This time let's get the right one. This one. We'll go ahead and start that one up. This will probably work a lot better. I thought I put out the EPL, so I was like wondering. I'll show you a couple of problems I've run into with this. Yeah, that's better. So at least I know I'm on the right guy. So, all right. Okay, so this one is showing with both Cockpit and the Blue Onyx software up and running, about 558 meg in use. You know, that's for a server doing what this is doing. That's not bad, and you'll notice that there are some services that are still coming up here. So I just saw Fail the Band come up and start running. Now I have done some initial hardening on this. Not a lot, but some. Started to do some of the hardening on this already. So I think I have a firewall up and running, and I have some other things. So I guess the first thing we need to do here is make sure that this is still 117. And it is. Okay. So I guess the first place to go to look at this let's just go to, nope, do I have to go to 444? Oh, it's, my one key is not working here. There we go. Okay, so you'll have a admin account that's created for you, and they'll tell you what the password is on the website. I've already changed it, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. I don't want to save this. So the first thing you get is you'll get the news that's being published on their website, so you keep up with the current events. And then here the latest one is about that. The one about the Red Hat owner of CentOS announced that that CentOS is gone. So here you would have your server management pieces, and under that you have server administrators, network services, security, system settings, web applications, maintenance, programs, usage information, and an active monitor. So we can go down through those. And this one just allows you to add additional administrators to the server as you see fit, or other kinds of users as well. Let's see what we can add here. What type of users we can add. Yeah, so then you can give them access to particular aspects of the system or not. And whether or not you want to enable shell access for them or not. And there's also some expert settings over here that you can turn on as well. There is full documentation for this on their site. Network services, so I can enable these various functions on the system, what types of features I want to turn on for those, and then there's Nginx over here, which is allowing me to set up my SSL proxy. I can also set up subdomains, so if a user wants to set up, now typically that would be if a major corporation had multiple lines of business and they wanted to create separate websites for that, you could do that. And then email, for example, that's just an example. You can set up your SMTP server as whichever flavor of that you want to do. And they do have some kind of rudimentary, but I'll guarantee you'll be on the command line if you're using SendMail to actually finish the setup. Probably postfix too for some of it. DNS settings, you have not much in the basic, is there? It's either on or off, enabled or not. And then advanced, then you can set up some of your how long do you cache entries for, and how often, and how long you keep them. The zone format, which you probably wouldn't be changing that. I doubt it. So unless you wanted to not participate in the internet DNS, SNMP, if you want to turn that on, you can, and you can have that. That's the network management protocol, of course, and you can log those entries either to a log files or to a database if you wish. And there's also security settings. So what do you want to do with failed logins, PHP settings, which you'll probably want to restrict some of that. Let's see what's in SSL. This is probably importing keys. So I'm pretty sure that they support, Let's Encrypt, and a number of others as well, so you can import certificates into the site. And then your basic settings for TCP/IP, how it's allocated. What do you want to do with the system? Reboot it, bring it down. Time. This is your data retention settings, which would be, I think, the only GDPR tools that you actually have is here, which is how long. Of course, there is mandates on how long you can store your log files. But there are other mandates, too, that are not met. So it is not fully compliant. It does not offer full compliance checking for GDPR. So you may still need some additional tooling. Linus would be one that you could use for that, the commercial version of it. For example, set up SQL, maintenance on the system, the server desktop. The GUI access tools. So these would be for your users, right, to come in and actually do modifications on their site. PHP admin, console login. Then you can look at things like graphs of and reports on your network, your Webalizer summary, FTP. I shudder every time I see FTP turned on a server. The problem with FTP is there are two parts to the structure. There is a command structure, a command process, which handles all the commands that go across the network from the client to the server. The command channel contains the user ID and the password when you initially log on. Those are sent in clear text on FTP. There are variants of FTP, like SFTP, for example, which encrypt the command channel. So none of that information and none of the commands are visible over the internet. So it's always preferable to use SFTP. There is another variant of FTP called FTPS. FTPS only encrypts the data channel. So the data channel is when I've started a transfer, a put or a get, and I'm moving data to or from the server. That particular, the FTPS encrypts the data channel. And of course, SFTP encrypts both the command and the data channel of FTP, whereas FTP alone doesn't encrypt either. They're both in clear text. So if you're using FTP, everyone can see your commands, your passwords, the data. It's all visible over the internet. So if you don't use a VPN or something to further encrypt it, you're out in the open. And then your disk summary. There's an active monitor down here it's giving me status. It's probably going to tell me I'm out of date on something. Email servers, caution. There's a severe problem. Can I find out why? Yes. Not currently running and could not be started because it wasn't configured. I know why. And then the server desktop. These all require additional configuration to come up. So it's telling you that these are not actually running. So I don't actually have anything set up for a user to be able to go in and maintain their site. And I don't have a web server that's set up yet for them either. So yeah, bad on me. So that's basically, and then there's site management where you can look at all of the hosts that are running Blue Onyx software. So you can manage the host from a central place. And then you can get software updates. Now I have a problem ever since, now this is showing you, this is the, I think this is the commerce software. And you can get the enterprise edition of that. So if you're hosting an e-commerce site, they do sell software in addition to the free stuff that allows you to actually conduct business. So that's optional. That it's not required. But if you do want to offer e-commerce to your users, then you would have to purchase the software or use some other package, I guess, to do that. But I can install their packages. I can look at, this would be more of the software that's actually on here. I can look at what versions I have and whether they need update and all that stuff. And then the Yum updater I'm having a problem with because see these two guys right here, this PearlNet, OpenSSH, NoArch, and Moo, they won't install. They won't install because there's a conflict with an existing package in the repos with the same name. This is a common problem with RPM. So the only way to get around this is that I have to run the updates from the command line and then give a command -- no best, which means just leave those alone. So I can't, right now, there's a bug. I can't update these because there's a package conflict between these repos, which I believe come from Blue Onyx, and the ones that come from Red Hat. So it's stopping me from doing it from here. So. And then I can set up my profile for the administrator and all that stuff. And that's basically, and I can look at the disk usage for me personally. So this is looking at my home directory. And of course I don't have anything in there. And then I can get to SSH. Now, one thing I would say about the sysadmin, be careful with it because you can get to a terminal prompt with this. So if that happens and you have this facing on the internet, so is everybody else going to be able to get access. So two things. One, make sure that you have a VPN that is used to access this particular function that's going through the internet. And number two, absolutely make sure that you've changed the password for your admin accounts and make sure that, they do. And make sure you've also changed the password for MySQL and all those things. There are and root access for MySQL, all those things you need to lock down. Because if you don't, you will have some trouble, definitely. I guess that's really about all I really had to say about that. So let me pause here for a second. I'll go back to the script. Okay, so what do I think about this? So I'm using the latest download. This is 5210R, which derives from CentOS repos. The system, it seems pretty responsive. I've been able to go out and install the EPL repos, and I've been able to put some packages on here. I've installed Linus, and I've gotten all that to work. But, can you use this as a general purpose OS? Yeah, you can, absolutely. You could shut down, if you don't want to do the web host, you could shut that down and just start using it as a regular thing. But you're not if they decide to switch engines and you're tying yourself to CentOS, you got a problem. So there's a concern there. If they go to Rocky Linux, then okay, maybe you don't have a worry about it unless Red Hat decides to lock down the repos, and then we're all back to where we started. So the world is a uncertain future, right? It's always uncertain. The best choices that you can make is to utilize what you need to utilize today, but don't marry it. Don't put your hooks into it so deeply that there's no way to extract from a RHEL RPM package base. That's my advice. And I think if you talk to any old timer, they will tell you the same thing. don't bet the farm on those things being around forever, because this business changes all too quickly. Things like for example, Yellow Dog, we thought would be around for a long time, and they poofed. So if you had been cemented into the Yellow Dog way of doing things, well, you probably would have had to do a migration to another distro. So yeah, that's the other. And I've mentioned the server access, so be careful of that. There are 3 types of users that you can create onto this. You can create admins, resellers, and end users. So the documentation for this is online. It's pretty complete. It looks pretty good. I mean, it made sense to me going through it, and I'm sure it will for you as well. So is this a viable option? Yeah, it's a viable option, just with caution. We don't know how far Red Hat is going to go here. I mean, this could be the first shoe to drop, and it might be the last shoe to drop. We don't know what their plans are. And they have said they were going to produce a open version of Red Hat, and we're still waiting on that to happen. And it probably won't happen now until after the first of the year, but we'll, if it does, I'll let you know. But this is from Greg Kurtzer. Greg Kurtzer is one of the co-founders of CentOS. He said, this was back when this whole story with the Red Hat / CentOS governance board unfolded, and they were going to end CentOS 8. He said, I was considering creating another rebuild of RHEL, and we may even be able to hire some people for this effort. If you're interested, please go here. They have since set up Rocky Linux's website, and that's basically I have about that. So he is definitely working on this, and we can go out here. Let's just do that. So hopefully this will quiet down people from telling me to go look at Rocky Linux. I have been looking at Rocky Linux. Problem is, I can't review anything on Rocky Linux. There is nothing here yet, guys. There is some posts, some documentation. That's it. There is no distro here to download. There's nothing to look at. This is a future. And anybody in this business that's been around for a while will tell you, you cannot evaluate futures. You don't know what they are. You can't look at them. You can't kick the tires. You can't install them. So I will look at Rocky Linux once it's released, once there's something to look at. I'm not going to look at betas. I'm not going to look at alphas. It has to be released for me to look at it. Because I don't think that's fair to be looking at beta products. For one thing, they're not done testing it. So anyway, if I was a tester, I would bring down the beta, but I'm not. So if you want to help with this, there are still slots available. I can tell you that. If I went over here to the documentation, they go through their status. So you can see that, let me see, teams. Let's see what we got here. Current, let's see. Somewhere in here is community team. So they are definitely setting up. They have the community manager. I think this one lists all the teams. So you have Greg is at the top, and then we have a project manager. Hayden is web and branding. Jordan is doing the community. Lewis is working on identity management. Neil on infrastructure. Arlie is operations. Rob, security. Taylor, infrastructure. Benjamin, governance. So you have some teams that are reset up, and there are people under these teams that are starting to sign on to do contributions. There are a lot of gaps in this yet. So if you're interested, I'm sure they would welcome you to help out with anything that you are willing to do. I would, but I'm buried. So, yeah, I haven't been involved in community efforts in a long time. Have other things to do. So, yeah, if it was part of my job, which I don't have anymore, I would do it. But anyway, so so where does that kind of leave us with Blue Onyx? So Blue Onyx is committed to supporting a platform to support their software for 10 years. They have not committed to a RHEL-based distribution. I don't think anybody can do that yet. until there's something there for us to use. And right now, I'd say the future of RHEL. I mean, like I said, I doubt. I would. It's highly unlikely that they would lock down the repos. Yeah, that would just open up a legal battle, and I don't think they would want that. I mean, they certainly don't want that bad a press. They've already getting hit with bad press right now. So, yeah, I would think that would be unlikely. So I think the repos will be open for at least the foreseeable future. I mean, it's always hard to judge the future. Somebody else comes in and takes over the company and starts managing it. Who knows? I mean, it seems to be there's so much interest in open source right now. The corporations are moving in, and of course they're all going to want to make money, and they're all going to want to make sure that whatever they do is protected so that no one else can see what they're doing. So yeah, and that's just life. Anyway, I'm going to add this to the list of ones to evaluate, and I'll add Rocky when it comes. But I'm not going to wait on starting my movement based on the hopes of something that may or may not materialize. You just don't know, right? I mean, until there's something there. Anyway, that's all I had for right now. I think I have beat that horse to death. So if you want me to look at Rocky, I'd be happy to. As soon as there's a .iso file to download, I will. Hope to see y'all again later, and bye for now.